Hello and welcome. Thank you for clicking on this video, which it's really an audio with a video as a background, so I have an ability to upload it to YouTube without them flagging it or whatever. Now, the purpose of the video is to distract your physical self while your mental self goes on an adventure. Now, the gameplay you will see is just whatever gameplay I just so happen to be playing. The idea is that my character, I will stay alive long enough to finish the story, no matter how long it is, and although it's likely that you will see a couple different playthroughs depending on the length of the book in question that I will read, and you will notice that I will be uploading the entire audio recording of me reading the entire book from start to finish. You're welcome to come and go as you please, and I will have bookmarks in the description of where each chapter begins. Now, this first book that I am reading is called Dungeons and Dragons Endless Quest. You Are the Wizard. Big Trouble by Matt Forbeck. Now, word of warning, I will do the best I can to keep the voices consistent. However, unless I do the voice several times, I tend to have a hard time keeping my consistency, so please forgive me if I should mess up. Also, even though it is a choose-your-own-adventure book, I will be making the choices for you and editing out the page-flipping sounds, and so the recording that you'll be hearing will be different than the one that I am making, as in it will feel like a smooth, solid story from where you are at, as opposed to a bunch of flipping of the pages for me. Now, I will continue. I won't, from where, whatever, basically, it's going to be a linear adventure. Here we go. The ground of our deep forest trembles, and you are troubled. It has always felt firm and stable before this. What's happening? You ask yourself. You ask as you push yourself away from your ancient desk, fashioned by magic from the living trunk of a tree far older than you. You've been studying the elven scrolls strewn across it all week, deciphering the notes and sigils scrawled upon them by wizards much wiser than you. In this case, your parents. And you are on the edge of a breakthrough in your understanding of them. That will have to wait for now. Excuse me. He flashes you a goofy grin as he rubs his belly, entirely unaware that there might be any problem. Quiet, Talaran, your mother says to him as she cocks her head to one side to listen. She focuses her attention far away for a moment. Then her eyes snap back to you, filled with panic. We need to leave, she says. Now. You start to gather up your scrolls to put them away, but your mother shakes her head at you. We don't have time for that. Your father bursts through the front door of your cozy home, a tower built into the center of a massive hollow tree. Trouble is coming, he says to you all. Big trouble. What kind, Mallorin? Your mother asks him as she gathers up her spell components, the special little odds and ends she needs to work her wizardly magic. Did you see? Does it matter, Ardina? We have to leave, whatever kind it is. But why? Talaran asks. Isn't it safe with one of the reasons why we live here? He's right, you know. The tower tree you call home blends in so well with the other trees in Ardeep Forest that you sometimes have trouble picking it out yourself. It's how your parents keep people from the nearby metropolis of Waterdeep from constantly knocking on your door. Such camouflage doesn't matter to the creatures coming this way, your father says as he puts your brother's hand in yours. You can feel your brother trembling. If you weren't frightened before, you're starting to feel that way now. Your father scurries about, stuffing necessary things into his pack. They knock over everything in their path. Our home will be just another tree to them, something else to flatten. Who are they? Your brother asks. You're not sure you want to hear the answer. Giants, your father says as he leads you towards the front door. People as tall as a house, taller even than our tree. They're coming this way, and they're hungry." He flings open the door and you squeeze your brother's hand, ready to run as fast as you can. But before you take your first step, you see exactly what your father was talking about. A massive person stands before you, blotting out the sun. "Hide," your mother says to you. "Take your brother and go." You do exactly as your parents suggest and hide. There's no place inside the main part of the tower tree that's sure to be safe, so you decide to dive into the cellar beneath it instead. It's deep inside. It's deep enough that even if the entire place comes down, you might survive. Still holding your little brother by the hand, you haul him toward the cellar door, but he fights you all the way. "No!" he screams. "Mother! Father!" "It's safer than staying up here," you try to explain, but he continues to fight you. You don't blame him for wanting to help your parents, as foolish as that would be. You have the same urge yourself, but the roar of the giants outside sounds like the approach of a hurricane, and while he might be too young to understand, you know neither of you can stand against them. You hear an explosion outside, followed by a crack of thunder, so close you're astonished that the lightning didn't split open the tree. You make the mistake of covering your ears against the noise as you pull open the hatch for the cellar, and that's what allows Talaran to squirm free from your grasp. The boy spins on your heels and charges back towards the tower front door. "Mother!" he shouts. "Father! Hold on! I'm coming!" You leap up from the cellar hatch to sprint after him, but that's when the tree starts to come apart all around you. It begins with a loud thump as something hits the outside of it, causing the entire place to shake as if an earthquake has hit it. Then the tree cracks open near the bottom, and light begins streaming in. You cast about for Talaran, hoping you can save him, or at least be with him when the end comes. But you can't find him anywhere. You dash toward the front door, hoping to spot him, and there he is, reaching for the door. "Mother! Father!" he calls again. "No, Talaran!" you shout. He doesn't seem to hear you. "Come back!" Suddenly, as the tower tree rumbles around you, Talaran holds up short and glances back at you. At that moment, you can see in his eyes that he's sorry. He knows what he did was wrong, and that it put both your lives in danger. But he just can't help it. He loves your parents too much to ever leave them. He swallows hard and opens his mouth to say something to you, but the words don't come out. Instead, an instant later, an entire wall of the tower tree disappears as a giant knocks it down with a blow from an enormous club, exposing you and Talaran to its rage. The force of its roar knocks you backwards through the hatch and into the cellar. You hit your head on the stairs as you go, and blackness takes you. You awaken some time later and emerge from the ruins of your home. Talaran is gone, as are your mother and father, and you have no idea where they've disappeared to, or even if they're still alive. You've never felt so alone in your entire life. You shade your eyes to look up into the sky, and you spot something that steals your breath away. A giant tower hovering into the air above where your tower tree once stood. This one is made of stone rather than wood, but despite that, it defies gravity's pull. A massive ladder leads down from the front of the floating tower, and a giant stands in front of it, looking at you. This one's even bigger than the ones who destroyed your home, almost 5 times your height, but he seems more restrained. He has grey hair and a long, well-kept beard, and he wears a wizard's robe. He gazes at you with a wide, revealed smile.
"Thank Menma you're not dead," he rumbles. "I'm Zephyros, a friend of your parents. I heard about the hill giant invasion, and I came to defend against it."
He surveys the ruins.
But it seems I'm just a little bit too late. But perhaps I can help.
After weighing his options, Zephyros takes you to his flying tower to visit Cloglilamatar, an ancient green dragon that lives in a nearby crypto garden village.
If there were any other way,
he says,
I hate hill giants.
The dragon tells you when you arrive.
And the feeling is mutual.
She licks her lips as she says this, though you wonder if she might find you tasty. She consults her large collection of crystal balls to see if she can figure out what happened to your parents. As she does, she gasps in delight.
I have found them! Your father, it seems, is traveling north to the Eye of the Old Father, faster than you can believe, while your mother, along with your brother, is being taken to Grudhog, a hill giant settlement to the south.
Zephyros looks down at you, eager to leave.
which way would you like to go?
I need to find my father, you say as Zephyros escorts you safely from the lair of the green dragon and back to his flying tower. But what is the Eye of the All-Father?
It's a temple dedicated to Anam, the All-Father, the leader of the giant gods.
Zephyros explains as he lifts you into his tower.
We giants know it is an oracle that can help us divine the threats that face us in the world. I suspect your father became separated from your mother in the battle with the hill giants. He must have gone there to discover what happened to her.
How do we get there? You ask hopefully as Zephyros climbs up into the tower after you.
It lies hidden under the spine of the world, a mountain chain far to the north. I don't know how to find it myself. Its location is tightly kept secret, but I know someone who does. His name is Harshnag, a frost giant who fancies himself something of an adventurer.
He doesn't sound easy to find, you say. Zephyros chuckles at this.
It's far simpler to find him than the Eye of the All-Father. Harshnag doesn't avoid attention. You might instead say that he likes to court it. Once we reach the spine of the world, we should be able to locate him in no time.
You're not sure if you believe Zephyros, but if you want to find your father, you don't have much choice. The tower flies to the north, and days later you begin to scour a snow-capped chain of mountains, hunting for this giant adventurer. The thunderous noise of battle between two frost giants draws you to Harshnag.
There he is,
Zephyros says as he brings the flying tower in closer to the hard-fought clash. As Zephyros' flying tower comes to a hovering stop above the fight raging in the middle of the snow-capped mountains, the battle between the two frost giants reaches a crescendo. One of them swings his battle axe at the other and knocks his foe backwards to the edge of the cliff. The injured giant hangs there for a moment, windmilling his arms as he struggles to fight his momentum before he topples into the abyss below. You gasp in horror as the victorious giant throws back his head and bellows in triumph. Zephyros tries to comfort you.
That's Harshnag below us,
he says.
Fortunately, he won.
Zephyros puts you on his shoulder, where you sit perched like a bird as he climbs down the ladder from his flying tower. By the time he sets foot on the mountain, Harshnag stands there ready for him, his gigantic battle-axe holstered at his waist. "What do you want, wizard?" the frost giant says with a suspicious glare. Zephyros gestures towards you and explains.
This is the child of Malarin and Angelina, friends of mine from our deep forest, who have gone missing. We believe Malarin seeks the eye of the Allfather so he can find his wife, and this little one would like to find him.
Harshnag tugs at his beard as he considers the request. Soon he comes to a decision and addresses you directly. I can take you to the Eye, but it's a threatening journey to an even more dangerous place. I will be happy to help you on this hazardous quest if that's what you're set on, but if you're not up to such a harrowing undertaking, you can remain with your wizarding friend here while I go search for your father myself. I appreciate the offer to look out for my father for me, you tell Harshnag, but this is my quest. I can't abandon it. Fair enough, little one, Harshnag says with a game look in his massive eye. Then you and I will find the Eye of the Allfather together.
I thought you already knew where it was,
Sephiroth says as he sets you down on the mountain next to the burly and eager frost giant. At least the cloud giant isn't so eager to be rid of you that he'd hand you over to someone without any sort of plan. I do, of course, Harshnag says with a sheepish yet confident grin. It's just not always that easy to get to, if you know what I mean. It's just one of the ways it's kept safe from intruders. It's all right, you tell Sephiroth in an effort to allay his fears. While Harshnag might not seem like the most solid of allies, you have no choice in the matter at the moment. Not if you want to find your father. As tempting as it might be, you can't just hide in the cloud giant's flying tower forever. You glance up at Harshnag, who's almost 4 times as tall as you, but still shorter than the cloud giant wizard. He arches an eyebrow in what you're sure he thinks is a daring manner. You'd like to be more comforted by that than you are, but you decide that it'll have to be good enough. I think I'm in good hands. Sephiroth grumbles a bit.
I wouldn't leave you with him if I didn't agree, and I'm afraid I have pressing business elsewhere.
He gives Harshnag a hard look.
You take good care of this child, though, or I'll hear about it.
Of course, Harshnag says with an easy smile. I always look after the little ones as if they were my own. He winces in an instant at some kind of memory. Actually, better than that.
See that you do,
says Sephiroth. You run up and hug his knee, and he gives you a gentle pat on your back.
Take care of yourself,
he says to you.
I expect to be regaled by legends of you in good time.
You can't help but laugh at that. Then he disengages from you and climbs up the ladder into his flying tower. A moment later, the tower begins floating away, and soon it's lost in the snow-choked sky. Let's be off, Harshnag says once Sephiroth is gone for sure. I'd carry you, but I find that sort of extra weight throws me off in battle, and I'm always ready for a fight. You're disappointed that you'll have to walk, but you're not sure you want to be clinging to the giant when he gets into battle anyhow. He has you take the lead while he guides from behind. Giants leave big footprints, he explains. Don't want you stumbling in one of them. You hike for days, and eventually you reach the place that the giant claims is where the Eye of the Allfather sits, high in the range of his snow-capped mountains. Harshnag leads you through a complicated series of icy tunnels and treacherous passages until you finally approach the entrance to the temple, at which point he stops and encourages you to enter on your own. They don't always like me too much in there, he says with a grimace. And I don't want to overstay my welcome if you don't need me. Although, just shout for me. I'll be there in an instant, I promise. You reluctantly agree to this, and you proceed alone down a high, wide causeway that leads into the temple complex. You reach the vaulted dome held up by pillars onto which have been carved life-size scenes depicting the 6 kinds of giants: hill, frost, cloud, storm, stone, and fire. There's a hallway in the back of the dome that's tall enough for even the largest giant to pass through, and wider than your home. You head down it. You don't get 10 feet along the passageway before a band of barbarians leaped out of the shadows and attacks you. As soon as the barbarians emerge from the darkness, you scream for help at the top of your lungs. You're embarrassed that you need assistance already, but you don't care. You know when you're outnumbered, and you haven't come all the way to the Eye of the Allfather to die before you even manage to enter the place. Harshnag comes roaring into the entryway, and most of the barbarians scatter, fleeing for their lives. Their chief, though, a larger man who still isn't even a third of Harshnag's height, shouts out,
"Have at thee!"
and then charges at the giant. Harshnag laughs at the man and backhands him with the flat of his battle axe. The barbarian chief goes flying and lands in a heap at the end of the tunnel. "I admire your pluck," Harshnag says as he steps over the barbarian's unconscious form, "but that'll only get you so far in the quelling of my wrath." As you leave the fallen man behind, the rest of the barbarians scurry out of the darkness to recover their chief. 2 of them throw the man's arms across their shoulders, and they scramble away as fast as they can. Harshnag's laughter haunts them as they go. Harshnag claps you on the back and walks with you up a set of stairs that terminate in a 30-foot-tall set of double doors covered with images of giants fighting dragons. You reach up to touch their glittering surface, and you realize that they're covered with ice. You push on them, but they don't budge. "Step aside, little one," Harshnag says. You do as you're told, and he charges up and smashes his shoulder into the door. The ice on them shatters, and they slam inward before his incredible might. You follow the frost giant into the cavernous chamber beyond. Every surface inside the room is rimmed with ice, including 7 gigantic statues. The first and largest of these, a robed giant with its face hidden beneath a deep hooded cowl, stands in the center of the room. The other statues kneel in 2 rows, to the central statue's left and right. Again, they feature each of the giant types: hill, stone, frost, fire, cloud, and storm. Each of the smaller statues face the one in the center, and all except the frost giant statue offers their weapons up to the main statue. The main statue gazes at an archway, and arranged around this arch are 6 runes you do not recognize, each engraved with a silvery metal called mithril. The archway is blocked by a stone wall covered by a thick swirling mist. You're not as concerned with the statues or the arch, however, as you are with the other person you see in the room, an elf dressed in tattered robes. "It's your father!" You shout in delight and race over for him to draw you up in a warm embrace.
"My child,"
he says, tears of relief running down his face.
"I thought you were dead."
"Oh, father," you say, "I'm so happy I finally found you. Can we just go home?" As glad as he is to see you, Malaran frowns as he sets you on the ground.
"I came here to see if I could learn what happened to your brother and your mother. We can't just turn back now."
"After being attacked like that by such vicious hill giants, it would be a miracle if they survived,"
Harshnag says to her father in a grim tone shaded with compassion.
"Capture by the hill giants almost always means death."
The thought of the rest of your family being dead causes your father's shoulders to sag in defeat. For a moment, you think he's going to start sobbing, but you hope not, because if he does, there's no way for you to stop yourself from sobbing too. And you don't want to cry about the dead right now. You just want to get out of the freezing cavern and start your life over. "I'm sorry, father," you tell him. I tried to save Talaran. I tried to hide away with him, just like you said to.
It's all right, my child,
he tells you as he strokes your hair.
It's not your fault. We both did the best we could.
It's at that point that you can't help but cry, and he does as well. Once you dry your eyes, your father nods his assent to Harshnag.
It's time to set this quest aside,
he says as he puts his arm around you.
I will not risk what I have found for what I have lost.
You're wiser than I am,
Harshnag says with a laugh.
but I suppose that's not a big hurdle.
With Harshnag's help, you and your father journey to Merubah, the largest city in the north. The frost giant takes his leave of you there.
Farewell, he says. May you find whatever it is you're searching for whenever you need it most.
Through Merubah, you work your way down the appropriately named Long Road, heading towards your destroyed home. You pass through Longsaddle and Tribar, and along the way you have many reasons to wish that you could have travelled in the comfort of the Cloud Giant Wizard's flying tower once again. When you finally reach Unveil, though, your father sits down and asks you a serious question.
I've been giving this a lot of thought,
he says,
and I can't seem to make up my mind, so I'm going to ask for your advice. Our home in Ardeep is no doubt destroyed, and it will take years, if not decades, to rebuild it, and we'll have to do so without the assistance of your mother and brother. Should we undertake such an endeavor?
What choice do we have? You ask. Your father shrugs.
We could head to Waterdeep instead. We could set up a home there, start fresh, and not worry about being haunted by the ghosts of our past.
He gazes into your eyes.
What would you like to do?
After giving the choice some thought, you speak. I can't bear the idea of seeing our home in ruins, you say. It would be like losing Mother and Talaran all over again. Your father nods in understanding.
Waterdeep it is, then,
he says as he gives you a hug. Many days later, you reach the city of Splendors and walk through its gates for the first time. Your father has been here many times before, it turns out. He reveals to you that long before you were born, he and your mother were adventurers.
We gave all that up when your mother became pregnant with you.
He tells you over dinner one night in your new home in the North Ward, a quiet section of town where noble families live alongside those who have money left over from their adventuring days, like your father.
Being a parent isn't suited to a life of exploration and looting, I'm afraid.
Will you teach me how to be a great adventurer?
You ask him. He gets a funny look on his face and some mixture of suspicion and pride.
Why in the world would you want to take up a life like that?
You make it sound so intriguing,
you say. You don't tell him the truth, although you suppose he could guess it. Someday, when you know enough magic and have enough to know-how, you've promised yourself you're going to track down the giants who destroyed your home, who took your mother and your brother, and you're going to make sure they can never do anything like that to anyone else ever again.
I suppose it might seem like that,
he says with an uncertain laugh.
But I'm sure you'd find out the hard way just how wrong you are.
The end. Thank you for the first adventure of our endless quest of being the wizard. Stay tuned for more books. Thank you.